I think that Starbucks and McDonald's is kind of a story about larger American decline. I think it's largely symbolic of how America was, is, and will be continuing to the future. So there's a few things that you could look into is one is that they respectively coincide, their growth coincides with um, periods of American uh, middle class flourishing, right? So this is, for simplicity's sake, I know the years might not align exactly here, but the 50s and the 90s are kind of considered more or less good times for the American middle class, right? And so McDonald's really grows in the 50s and Starbucks really grows in the late 90s, okay, and early 2000s. Okay? However, as time passes, you actually see some of these changes that really reflect how American life has deteriorated. Okay. So, one of the most obvious, of course, is shrinkflation, right? Particularly McDonald's. So, what's shrinkflation? Things get more expensive and the quality or size shrinks. Okay. And so, um, that is a reflection of how the dollar is itself being inflated. In other words, when you inflate the dollar, each dollar is worth less, therefore your savings is worth less, and it is in a sense a tax, or if you want to be less kind, a kind of thievery. Okay. So that shrinkflation over the decades has really hurt hard. That's why you see at McDonald's, like a hamburger used to be 5 cents, then now uh, it is whatever it happens to be here, right? Who knows what that is by the time you hear us, or given your local location, right? Okay, so shrinkflation is a issue. The second thing is both of them, I mean, more and more, there's fewer people there, and they become more and more unfriendly to having people there, right? They just want you to go buy your product, go home, and eat it there. Okay, they don't want you to stick around. Okay, so McDonald's gets rid of its drink dispensers that are available. It's always for a long time had plastic chairs, which are uncomfortable, but they also get rid of things like playpens and that kind of thing. It's a reflection of also less people wanting to actually be there, which of course is a reflection on the fact that socially speaking, people are deteriorating, right? People have less manners. People are more dangerous, right? Or perceived more danger at least. Okay. People are just dirtier or are at least perceived as being dirtier, morally, socially, in terms of hygiene. Okay. Starbucks is also kind of making smaller tables and that kind of thing, right? Emphasizing their drive-throughs and that sort of thing. Um, the last thing to think about is actually the business models because it's become more complex, right? This is no longer, okay, we sell coffee, we sell hamburgers, right? There's other kinds of things there. So McDonald's is kind of, in a sense, really a real estate business, okay? And, they basically, they can collect rent from their franchisors, or I mean franchisees, um, and the the price of their land goes up and up. Okay, Starbucks, does a lot of gift cards, and they could use that unspent money as basically kind of its own kind of, I guess in a sense, bank. I mean, you could look more into this. I'm not going to pretend I know the ins and outs of this to detail, um, but it's really interesting that they no longer simply just or only sell their products, coffee and burgers and fries, but rather they are leveraging their financial assets to get even more money and become even more profitable. Okay. And that itself is both a microcosm and a reflection of how our other institutions go about business. They're not simply selling products anymore. And I think that's also a big reason why the quality of those products start to decline because money is money. And then you have that money, right? Or assets are assets. You have that land, and then you could use that to become more profitable and generate more money. Okay. And then that starts to be detached from the actual product and service that you provide. Okay. And that really, I think, explains a lot about how America is declining in multiple dimensions, right? Socially, materially, financially. but all in the experience of common day, right, common everyday Americans, things are getting worse. And you could see all of those factors as microcosms in Starbucks and McDonald's.